Hi guys, James here. Thank you for coming to watch. And today is a little video which I wish I'd been able to find when I just started out with tube amps earlier this year. Back in January, February, I picked up the guitar again after 15 years away. Came back and really got interested straight away in tube amps, which when I was younger I didn't have a tube amp, and I can't even remember how I used to set my amps up, but it wasn't particularly complicated. Let's put it that way. So I actually started off this year with a Vox AC15, which has a master volume. Now, just to explain how it works exactly in these tube amps, you have a couple of different ways of it being set up. The most sort of vintage reissue amps and the old amps didn't have master volume. So if you're looking at Marshalls with the Plexi Marshalls, as they're called, just because they had a plexiglass front on the control panel, like the JTM 45, for example, that has no master volume. The Suhr Hombre, which is a Brownface type of amp, so that's a late 50s to early 60s. My Blackface Princeton, my Silverface from 68, those don't have master volumes. And essentially all that means is that the preamp and the power amp tubes are it's all connected. As you push the volume up, you overdrive the amp, but you increase the volume. Whereas with a master volume amp, you have controls for gain or volume on one channel that essentially allow the preamp to overdrive, whilst you can then control the volume of using the master volume, and that's controlling the output tubes, which you normally hear things like 6V6, 6L6, that's your Fender-y sounds, EL34, EL84, that's your Voxy, Marshall-y sounds, and there are other tubes, of course. A lot of the time when you play with master volume, of course, you're using the channel volume to really overdrive, master volume to keep it low, and then you're not getting everything out of that amp. But then in this day and age, who can get everything out of their amp volume-wise? It's very difficult. Even if you're playing live, gig venues are smaller and volume is just too much. Then you have another type of setup, which my Tone King Sky King has. This is becoming a bit more common, I think, for attenuation in an amp. So it's like a channel volume amp, like vintage style, but you can turn down the volume using an attenuator. And that's really good because it actually pushes all the tubes, but you can then control the volume a different way. It's not stopping the power tubes from working. And then you have other things like the Mesa Boogie Cali Tweed, which actually has different power stages. And my Two Rocks have that as well, but they have master volume and channel volume. So they have lots of different ways of controlling the volume. But yesterday, essentially what happened was I was trying to start my ES355 video where I'm playing along with this 59 reissue from the custom shop and my vintage 66 355. And I want to create a little montage where I go through my amps chronologically using these guitars to basically chart how the sound has evolved and how flexible these guitars are. So yesterday was my first day recording. It didn't really work out very well. I spent all day on it, but I've injured my fingers, so it's hard to play at the moment, which you might hear in a minute. But interestingly, I was using the Suhr Hombre. It's my oldest style of amp, the Brownface from the late 50s, early 60s. And I've been having trouble to set this amp up exactly as I want it. Now, it might sound silly because literally all you've got on each channel is a volume and a tone. How difficult can it be? Well, it just takes a bit of dialing in, and that's essentially what you have to do with these non-master volume amps, is to dial in the tone you want and then dial in the dynamic range you want. And I'm going to go through that process with you. Yesterday, I've got this amp attenuated anyway with the aux box, just by a couple of steps. It's not quiet, but it just takes the edge off the top. It's a really sort of barky, woofy amp when you push it, so I just need to attenuate that. But essentially, I wanted to play a sort of rhythmical finger picking. And then obviously that would develop and you would get some lead line. I'm gonna roll back the tone a bit. It's quite bright. But two things happen at this volume is you're not pushing the tubes at all, and you can hear that. It's just very clean. Now that can be useful for various things. There's not a lot of headroom in this amp, so it's not great for pedals, but you could add a pedal at that point to get your overdrive sounds. But there's no real character. I mean, it's nice though, it's got a mellowness to it, but it's not what I was after, and I've got nowhere to go. If I turn down the volumes at all, I've got nothing. So when you haven't got master volume, you know, you need to work at it a bit harder, and I was just going through it, went up to about 4.5. But again, that's full, and it's just still not got enough character, enough breakup. So again, I'm pushing and pushing, and if this wasn't attenuated in it, this would be really, really loud. So now we're just over the middle mark there. So that's great, because that's now on full volume on my guitar, and that's the sound I want for the opening bit. Back into the neck pickup for this. And again, it's just not quite as compressed and squished as I want. So now I want to be able to basically play the rhythm part at a much lower setting on my guitar. If it's full on in the middle position, we're now at number 9 out of 10 on the amp. You're going to get a really woofy low end here. Which I love that for my sort of gritty blues playing, you know. It is just a bit too woofy, so I didn't want it to go that far, and I just rolled it back to about number 8, and I'm still on full volume. So now I've got to the point where at full volume on my guitar, it's probably just at the very maximum of what I would want to get out of this. So just rolling the tone on my guitar back a bit, because it's pretty bright. Now I could probably be at around 4 to get. Okay, that's a bit too clean, so I'm just playing. Okay, so I'm only on 5 or 6 on the volumes, which is great because I've got all that space to play with. So that's nice, it's a bit too sweet though, so I'm rolling up the volume. And because the other thing I wanted to do was create a sort of old-fashioned blues. And I wanted that piece, the bluesy sort of piece, to sort of progressively get more and more, you know, rocky. getting woofy, I can use the neck pickup control, which I think is woofier. See, by rolling that back to 7.5, that's much less woofy. And there we go, I'd found the sound that I was after. I could go in one recording session, I wanted to do those two different pieces, and I could go number 6-ish. So for that sort of mellow, ambient-ish style, and I had some tremolo on at that point, you know, it worked really, really well. And then for that bluesy piece to go from, you know, to get the dynamics of a whole piece and start the piece like that and end up like is exactly what I wanted. So there we go, that's how I did it. And I think sometimes maybe when you're just starting out, you're sort of lacking the knowledge or the experience to see that you can really bring a piece up from very mellow and get those dynamics, all just by using the sweetest spot on your amp, which on here seems to be around 8-ish with an attenuator. But you know, attenuation or not, that's the point where the amp is going to sing at the point where your guitar volume is on its highest, so you get that most raucous sort of crunchy overdriven sound. And then I could really roll back quite far on here. I mean, just to give that cleanest sound, if I was really doing backing sort of rhythm for a sort of mellow piece. That's really, really mellow. So there we go. I hope that's been useful. Use the volume knob on your guitar as much as you can to give you those dynamics. Get the screaming point that you want at the top end at number 10. And as you roll back, you know, hopefully to 3 or 4, depending on your pots, you can get a really useful sound for other things and bring it up and up and up. And there we go. That's how I found the sweet spot of the Suhr Hombre, and that's how to use a non-master volume amp, I think, to its best potential. And I hope you found that useful. And if you have, please subscribe to the channel. Go and enter my pedal giveaway competition by subscribing and commenting. And look back a few videos. I'm giving away a Nobles ODR1, which is a fantastic overdrive pedal that just sounds great for recording and everything. And I hope you enjoyed this. Give it a thumbs up. I'll see you next time.